And a very simple exercise to do it is just draw straight continuous lines page after page, where you make sure that your pencil moves in a certain way, you have a good grip and control over the point of your pencil. These exercises sort of help you develop on your skill, your line quality. Number four is details. Now, these three basically cover your basics. If you have these three in your drawing, you get a basic pass grade. But now, how do you add brownie points? How do you get better? How do you shine over and above the other people who submitted their sketches? So this happens through details. Are you able to clearly show the properties of objects? If it's a shiny object, are you able to show the reflection? If it's an absorptive fabric sort of a material, are you able to show the texture? Are you able to show the sheen on a fruit, that on a skin of an apple, which is very different from the skin of a banana or from the skin of an orange? Are you able to show these textures on surfaces very well? Are you able to capture the character of a space? Is it an open space? Is there light? Is it an indoor space? Is it dark? Where is the light coming from? Are you able to capture the scale of the space and the character of the space, which mainly comes through the play of light? Are you able to bring in the right amount of light into your sketch? Are you able to layer your perspectives? Are you able to, if you draw a perspective, all the objects or the details that are the nearest will be the most articulate, where if you're showing a child holding the hand of their father or mother, you will show each and every minute detail of the fingernails, of the fingers, the marks on the hand very clearly. Versus as the drawing progresses in perspective and in depth, and if you see things in the background, they are more hazy. You don't need to add so many details. It need not be too articulate. So are you able to layer your perspective well, where the things in the front are very well detailed and the ones in the back slowly become more ambiguous and sort of just give an idea or an outline of what is happening? And finally, are you able to populate your sketch with these minute details? So this comes through observation. How well have you observed your surroundings to know what exists at what point of the day? What are the coexisting uh, things happening at the same time in a particular situation? So are you able to populate your sketch with such kind of details and information? That's detail. And finally, number five is technique. Now this technique here basically means, are you able to use what is the most apt or a correct tool or medium for presentation? Do you know whether a pencil sketch is better or a charcoal sketch, or do you want to introduce color? So this will also depend on how good you are at that particular medium of representation. If you think you're very good with charcoal, you will try and bring that onto all your wherever you can in all your representations. But otherwise, if you sort of think that no, I'm better with pencil sketches, then maybe you can articulate it, give it more boldness with using ink or using black color or sketch pens. Um, so you have to understand what medium works for you. What are your strengths? And what you are good at, and try and bring that into your technique. So sorry, I just moved. Then there's appropriate use of styles of expression that's more or less similar to whether it's charcoal or watercolor or dry pastels or rendering or pencil or pen and ink. And finally, the overall craftsmanship. Are you able to sort of space your drawing properly? Are you able to, when you scan, is it in the center? Are you leaving enough margins on all sides? Is it aligned properly? These smaller things go a long way into making a difference to as an aspirant for NATA. Just hold on a second. The first question from the drawing test that from section 2 that you had to answer was, remember your first day to school? You were 5 years old and you went to kindergarten holding the hand of your mother or your father. Some children were crying. So it's a imagery that has been formed through words. So what do? What is the first step? Is you try and extract the keywords. You try and extract what are the important aspects that the person is looking at, the person who's framed this question for you. So the keywords are 5 years old. So you to understand quickly, this brings you to picture how a 5-year-old sees the world versus how a grown adult sees the world. So you have to suddenly understand that scale comes into picture. Holding hand. So your sketch has to show a scene in which you're holding, the 5-year-old is holding the hand of an adult, happy children, crying children, which means there are many number of children, not just one child. A few of your sketches didn't have any children or any other people. So that's not how you're missing out important information from the exercise piece. And finally, it talks about you are curious to see the play area, which means that you couldn't directly or clearly see the play area, but there was a hint of a play area somewhere in the backdrop. So you had to sort of bring that into play as well. So these were the words. Now, just hold on. We'll quickly look at your samples. All right. So the school. These are the sketches. We'll quickly look at each of them. So this one. So while this person is trying to use their representation and skill techniques of rendering, they're trying to show sun rays, etc. But what is happening in the process is that the point one, which is your visualization, is being lost out. Your keywords are not coming forth. I'm not able to see this from a 5-year-old's perspective. This is not the perspective or the eye vision or eye level of a 5-year-old. This is more an adult looking at the situation. So point one is left out while the person is concentrating on point three of skills and trying to show how well they're able to render. But that is step three, remember. If you've not cracked your step one and step two of being able to visualize and represent very, very well, it'll be a lost cause. This, of course, there are issues with the perspective. The details are not, it's not very well articulated. The pencil strokes are not that bold or very impactful. So it sort of takes away from the overall understanding of the drawing. Also, see, it's not proper, it's not been scanned properly. I understand it's a photograph, but because of that, your alignment of the paper is not right, and it's sort of not a very impressive or impactful sketch at that. Trying to move to the next. Okay, this, see, if you understand, if drawing is not your strength, your coloring is not your strength, you should probably not use it if it is not asked. So while more time could have been spent with pencil on working on the details for this drawing, this person has taken too much drawing time in coloring, and hence a lot of important details are left out, and the perspectives, of course, are not too right. It's sort of not making the right impression for an evaluator. Well, so this sort of manages to capture the visualization part well, because you can see that it's a preschool. You can see some details which show that it's a part of it's a preschool. There's ABC 1, 2, 3, smaller toys, objects, etc. You're able to see this child. The perspective more or less is correct. You can see one girl who's crying. I wish there were more kids here. There were more children you could have added into the sketch. The second part of the exercise, which was you were curious to see the play area. Now that is left out unless you interpret that play area to be an indoor play area. So that is something that could have been added. You probably don't want to add so many details of the jam being so dark, because it gives a very wrong impression for the in terms of materiality of the space. Okay. So this one has a good skill. They are very, it's very well drawn. The proportion of the, although the eye level seems to be slightly off. The eye level is almost at the level of, it's at the neck level of the woman, of the mother. So it's not a 5-year-old's eye level. So that is something you must keep in mind. These are out of scale. The play areas, the playthings, the ducks that are being shown are completely out of scale. So while there is a lot happening in terms of the expressions shown of the little kid going towards school, and there are more humans shown in, and there's a good depth to the drawing, some basic aspects of eye level and the scale and proportion need to be addressed. This is quite nice actually. It's a good balance of color and pencil and ink sketching, and you're able to see more number of children. So it's sort of nicer. It's there is a slight hint of a play area in the back. So this person, in terms of visualization, has understood the exercise quite well. The brief that was given has been very well understood by this person, and also the level of detail, etc., is very well done. One of the better sketches. Um, okay. Now, this one, for example, this person has missed the fact that you were talking about 5-year-olds. These are high school students that you're trying to sketch. While the proportion of the human and the overall proportion of the whole composition, the way the building is, the trees, the landscape elements, it's all very nice, but it's not directly addressing the exercise, the brief that was. You were to draw for a preschool, you were to draw a preschool where 5-year-olds are coming. There is no mention of there's no hint of the play area. And so that's why, while this one makes up on the other aspects of the drawing of the criteria of evaluation, but if the first part is not met, if you've not really understood the exercise, then there's no point going further for the evaluator. Yeah, so those are the few I would like to talk about. So here, the refinement of the sketch has not come. You see, that person must have first steps, after which they've layered another human here. So they've not been able to, the steps must have been very darkly or very deeply drawn, so they were not able to completely erase those out. So the refinement is missing from the sketch, while in terms of visualization and representation, they managed to capture the essence very well. A little bit of work needs to be done at the third and the fourth, the detail level maybe. But it's still one of the better sketches that we've come across today. So I must congratulate the person who's attempted this. So those are a few of the school ones. Now we'll quickly look at the mural. So what I've felt and what I've seen happening with all of you here is that you missed the exercise completely in this case. Please understand that some details are given in our exercise and they are given for a reason. While it says that this composition is for a space, for a wall, in a high school, in a secondary school lobby, and you're supposed to, it's an entrance lobby of a secondary school, and you're supposed to design a mural. Now, a mural, as also mentioned in the exercise in the brackets, is a composition which is made up of panels or tiles or other such objects that are fixed onto the wall. So now you have to understand that when you're drawing a composition, you better bring this forth. You better make it clear that this is something that is happening on the wall. It's okay if you don't want to show the complete lobby, but at least a hint of the fact that this is happening in sort of an open congregational area of a public space, and it is hung or sort of attached to a wall, so you can watch it horizontally or rather superficially. And the keywords here, of course, were mural, composition, entrance lobby, and the mention of how many shapes you need to take. If it's 4 hexagons, 3 squares, and 2 circles, so total 9 shapes. So please ensure that in your composition, you do not exceed this number. And also the colors was mentioned very clearly using 3 colors. When they are so particular about that brief, I believe that you should follow what has been asked of you, unless there is a very strong reason for you not to. Unless you feel that in your overall composition you can't take it 9 shapes but only 8, but then that should be very apparent in your composition. If not, please stick to the brief. Please stick to the fact that they need you to work with so many shapes and so many colors. So we'll quickly look at some samples works, but I must already tell you that except this one, it sort of talks slightly. There is a little bit of depth that is happening here. This black shade here shows that it is probably it is attached to a wall. So there is some bit of shade that is happening. There's a depth which is being shown here. There's slight elevation from the wall is what is clear from this. So while a lot needs to be added in terms of the skill of the person in the way they have colored. Also, they've missed the brief that only three colors needed to be used. They've ended up using more than three. But there is some bit of depth that you can see here onto this, and it could I could almost see a beginning of a mural here. But apart from that, the rest of you have sort of looked at it as a independent mural or compositional exercise. It's not a mural really. So, what we could probably talk about in these is whether there's a sense of harmony, whether there is some balance, is it symmetrical, is there any sequencing, what is the underlying thought or concept? Even if it's just a composition of 8, 9 shapes, are you able to very strongly bring forth a concept? So, for example, asymmetry or disharmony could also be a concept, but you have to ensure that for yourself, you have very clearly figured what this thing is that you're looking at, what do you want to express through your composition, and that needs to then very strongly come across in your drawing. So this is probably trying to do something, but there's a lot of overlaps happening here, and which wouldn't actually be happening if this was a mural. You would not be you would not be seeing the fused shapes as they are here unless they are glass, unless you're showing them as glass. Again, while there is symmetry and repetition happening to a certain extent, I don't know if the number of shapes mentioned has been taken into account. I hope they have been. And these overlapping lines then will not be seen. You'll have to just decide what comes on top of the other. There's hardly any composition happening here. If this is the way this person wanted to compose, then they better ensure that the spacing between each of these shapes is sort of equidistant or at a certain ratio, and there's some bit of relationship between each of these shapes, the way they come together. So that's sort of been missed here. Again, when you overlap like these, what are you trying to show? If it's a mural, these overlaps will not be seen. They'll just be solid shapes, one on top of the other. One will be hiding the other, one will be overlapping the other, but there'll be no fusing like this unless it's glass. Also, I'm not sure whether this has been very well composed. If conceptually what this person is trying to do is have two circles which are then radially, hexagons are radially arranged around them, and they're sort of placed on a diagonal, then the size of the shapes should have been kept uniform for it to have a better appeal. So while the quality of the coloring is, the person has taken great care to ensure that happens, but again, the exercise or the brief has been slightly lost because of the overlaps here. But in terms of the articulation of the shapes by giving this border and then giving a background shade, the shapes are very well articulated and they come out very well as a good composition. This we already spoke about. Similar comments for the others. Again, this is slightly better than the other one because there seems to be some beginning of a thought here in terms of the distances or how these four hexagons are coming together. But I'm not sure if is it intentional for you to have all hexagons as of different sizes, or would you have rather kept them a similar size? And that would have been a more harmonious sketch to begin with. Again, this is a rhombus, it's not a square. So please ensure that when a square, it's mentioned as square, you make a proper geometric shape using your ruler and your tools for geometry. Shading was not asked. When it is not, please don't dual tone a shape like that. Let's stick to the exercise brief. We've already looked at this. Similar comments as the others, but I like the choosing of the colors in this one. I like that the colors that have been picked are sort of a similar family. They're all warm colors. So the overall composition gives you, if you've sort of slightly studied Gestalt's color theory, there are colors, and each color denotes or signifies something, and there are color families. So in this case, all the three shades that have been picked up belong to the same color family, and that is giving it a sort of a very pleasing demeanor to the sketch. So that's some extra points for this person. This technique of coloring is good maybe, but the central white is sort of I'm not sure whether the shapes or the solid they're coming up across as planes or tiles in this case. They're seen more as receptors or bowls. So, for example, circle could almost be seen as a deep bowl, which is or this could be seen as a receptor of something. Um, I am not sure if dual rendering is something you are looking for in a compositional sketch. You can achieve a lot by just doing something like this or this, like the yellow or the blue, rather than having two different shades that you picked in this case. So rendering of the same shade is fine. Strands of the same shade are great, but having two different, like a red and an orange coming together, maybe not so. Also, but the articulation of the black outline gives it a good pleasing aptitude. Just hold on a second.
Okay, I told you actually started the message.
Oh, I'll have to mute you for a minute.
सिर्फ इंदिरा नगर जयनगर में बेंगलुरु गैस हाँ वही
Shit, people have left. Shit. Sorry, I think we've had some technical issues. Isha, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I hope everyone can hear right now. Yeah, can someone type in if they can hear? Yeah, okay, they can hear now, Isha. Please go ahead.
Okay, great. All right, cool. Yeah. So we are more or less done with the sample works. I'll quickly look at the questions and sort of try and address those which are relevant. So there are a few questions on eligibility, etc., that I'm skipping because I'm sure DQ Labs will be able to answer them. I'll just look at our questions related to the entrance exam. All right. What should I use to outline my composition? Well, you don't always need to outline your composition. Sometimes the way you render can also give it an outline, but a simple pen, black pen, with thin point, or even a dark, like a 2B or 4B. Pencil is good to give it a good articulation. So you just have to make sure that your shapes are very precise and crisp. What will be the basis of drawing questions? Well, they keep differing from every time. If you look at all the previous NATA questions, they've been different. But what remains the same is, these points. Are you good at scales and proportion? Are you good at visualizing? Are you good at developing a good perspective and your line quality, etc.? Two memory questions are most expected this year. I wouldn't know. I don't know if they're speculating, but see, it's very easy to answer and address memory questions because usually they are very common ones. They talk about your visit to the zoo or to the circus or the water park or your school. Things that all of us have been through as kids, and usually the memories, they try and do some things that are related to the school. So it just means you taking a trip down memory lane and trying to probably close your eyes and picturize and teleporting yourself back into that scene, that situation. You find yourself reliving those moments, and then a lot of details will come to you. So it shouldn't be that difficult to address. Okay. So somebody's asked about evaluation. I looked at a lot of them, but maybe not all samples. But at some point, DQ Lab should get back to you with all your evaluations for sure. So there are a lot of questions about mathematics. Dion, there will be somebody who will be addressing those as well.
Yes, yes. We will also discuss till about 5:45, another 10 minutes, and
Yeah.
after that we'll address a few of the mathematics questions. Isha, if you
Yes.
can just talk about one student, Rahul. Um,
Mm-hmm.
he's got a question. Uh, in which pattern Ludhiana city planned? I'm not sure if you have the answer to that. Ludhiana city. Do you
Okay.
have an answer to that, or that is something, Rahul? If you want
Chandigarh
to
was
ask,
planned. Chandigarh was planned by Le Corbusier. I don't believe Ludhiana as a city has been planned. It has organically grown. So, but that is, yeah, I mean, it probably be on the internet. But I believe the question must have been Chandigarh because that was designed by the French architect Le Corbusier.
yeah, okay. Right. Tips for speeding up drawing skill. I don't know whether you addressed that by Vaishali K. She's asked that.
Okay. Speeding up. I think practice. There's no shortcut here. So sketch, and keep sketching and keep drawing and just make up a pact with yourself to do 10 small sketches every day. Keep a sketchbook at all times with you. When you're waiting in line for the bus, or just after you've woken up, sketch about your dream, or while you're looking at TV, just sketch something. Just make a pact with yourself to make at least 10 sketches per day. Actually, more, but minimum 10. So there's no shortcut here. You just have to practice. Okay. Any
Uh,
other questions, Dion, that you seem?
yeah, there's what should I use to apply my composition?
Yeah, that I already answered.
That you answered. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, Karishma Sheikh has asked, can we use sketches in NATA? I'm not sure what you mean by your question. Can we use sketches in NATA? Could you please
Sketch pen.
rephrase that?
Maybe it is sketch pen.
Yeah. Maybe sketch pen. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you can use whatever medium you want. You have
Right.
to decide what medium you're good at.
Yeah. So there's someone who asked, what are the two questions that are most expected this year? The two memory questions that are most expected this year. I'm guessing the two drawing questions.
Yeah, so I spoke to them slightly both about memory question and what kind of questions come and how they should prepare rather than anticipating or speculating on what questions should come. So that I've looked at, answered.
What are the basic and important questions in NATA? We will take that a little later. From Kartike, we'll answer that later. How much importance should be given to composition when we have a perspective question as well? This question is from Neha Rao.
Yeah, see, both are important because both have marks attached to them, weightage. But it's easier to score or it's easier to attempt a composition. So you need not sort of spend too much time on it, so long as you can quickly come up with an underlying concept. So you to for yourself decide whether you want to show, say, sequence through this or repetition through this or harmony. Just pick up one attribute that you want to convey and very simply draw these geometric compositions and don't waste too much time in rendering. You can then move on to your perspective. Perspective will require you to add a lot of details and a lot of nuances to drawing. So clearly you should be spending more time on your perspectives, but do not, of course, ignore your composition because it's easy scoring for you. You can, if you can sort of catch the fancy, you catch the eye of the evaluator, because it is a pleasing composition, you'll quickly make marks. I mean, you'll quickly sort of, it's easy to get marks in that.
Next question. They said when scales are not allowed, then how do we make shapes perfectly?
Correct. So maybe this was my understanding. I thought they were allowed their basic geometrical tools. But correct me if I'm wrong, Dion. I thought they were allowed to carry their basic tools for geometry, or no?
1 second, let me just clarify. Are scales allowed? Basic geometric tools are not allowed? No, basic geometric tools will not be allowed.
All
Okay, I
right.
think
So then that's an error on my part. In that case, you just have to practice making straight lines and right angles and drawing these basic shapes over and over again. So you know that a right angle is a right angle, and you should be able to do it even without a scale or a ruler.
um, when we use some harmony, can we use shades of some color?
Yes, but like while I was looking at those samples, either you have to have those shades from the same color family. So if you started with an orange, you ensure that you work with an ochre and a yellow. So colors of the same family. Do not try and contrast them in your shading because a warm and a cool color together in one shape will not give you a good rendering. So for harmony especially, it's important to understand what color family you understand a little bit about color theory and what which colors fall under what, how they are categorized.
Okay. How effectively can we use 90 minutes to complete the sketches? This question is from Krushika Prasad.
Okay, so Krishika, like I spoke earlier about the composition being something that you can easily navigate and finish first, but it depends. If you think you're to rush for time later for your perspective, I'd rather that you begin with basic framework for your perspective. You get your basic outline of the main characters of your sketch in place. So, for example, what are the kind of buildings? What is the background? What is the vegetation like? What is the path like? How many people? Just make a framework of, like, first you make a grid, sort of a skeleton of what your sketch is going to look like. So you already know where what is coming compositionally, what you're placing there. Then you can move on to your composition and quickly finish up your shapes and your coloring or your rendering for your shapes. And then whatever time remains for you, you can spend on adding little details to your perspective because that is something that will take you farther on. But ensure that you get your basics done, your visualization, representation, and skill part. You have already finished first for your perspective, and you can go back and revisit the sketch for your details and your technique. So that is something you can refine your sketch later. Just get the basics in first. But 90 minutes is good time if you can sort of before you begin to even make the first mark of your pencil on your paper. If you in your mind already visualize how you want to compose this whole drawing, just take a minute to work that out. Maybe write down, maybe take notes, maybe write down these keywords as to what all will you cover in your sketch. Once you have a framework in your mind, it will be very easy to put it down on paper rather than going halfway and realizing, oh, this is something I missed or this is something I should have covered. So planning ahead will help you.
Right. So I think Pankaj Jain,
Yeah.
you asked a question, how do we divide our time when we face memory drawing and composition and perspective? Um,
Yeah.
I think that's been covered. Has it been covered, or would you have some more comments on that, uh, Isha?
No,
He's
I think
talking
it's,
about
yeah,
time management,
basically covered it.
basically time management.
Yes. Yeah, so it'll be different for everybody as to minute by minute division of time. But roughly, as I said, they'll have to look at the getting in the basics first, and then whatever time remains, they should add for details and articulation. But like I said, if they plan ahead, if they're able to already close their eyes and visualize, it'll be much faster for them.
Fantastic. Okay. I think Isha's got another couple
Okay.
of minutes with us. I'm just gonna race
Yeah.
through the last few questions. Can a scale be used in perspective? No. The answer to that, Kushbu, the answer to that is no. What are the two expected questions in 2018, Kartikeya? Uh, only the people who set the question paper would know that. We wouldn't be able to help you with that. But I'm sure if you take the guidelines, what Isha has given you, you can use that to improve your drawings. You could also go on to natasketches.com, which has a lot of evaluations. There's over 1.5 million hits on that, 1 million hits on that website. There's a lot of questions there for your reference. You can look into that. How can Atharva Naik, how can we know the marking for drawing? Please explain for drawings you showed before. Probably, how do you mark drawings? On what factors?
Okay. So it these like I said, can they all see my screen?
Yes, your screen
Yeah,
can be
so
shown.
these are the five. Yeah, these are the 5 pointers, and now depending on whether it is so, we evaluate a lot of different drawings for different, not only for NATA but also for CE and other exams. So depending on what is the total marks, we divided it into 5 sections, and each roughly is 10, 10, 10. Sorry, 20%. So that's how we sort of. So anybody who basically can manage to do the first three gets a passing mark or is already gets 50% of marks. Then how many details technique, how well you're able to articulate it is what gives you the extra top up marks to fare better in the exam. So just use these parameters and categories to represent 20% of your overall mark.
Isha, I think we'll take one last question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Hrithik is asked if we are not expected to color or shade the theme sketches, should we leave it unshaded or should we shade it? I'm guessing he'll have to shade the thing. Shading is an important part, right?
John, your voice was cracking. I was not able to hear you correct properly.
Right. So the question from Hrithik
Is it
is,
about shading a compositional drawing?
yeah, it said
Yeah.
that
So,
if
like I said,
I'm sorry, Isha, if you can repeat the question. Are you able to hear me, Isha?
no, actually, I missed the question part of it.
Yeah. So Hrithik's
Could
question
we
is,
chat? Could you just
sure. So Hrithik's question
could
is,
you just copy paste it for me in the chat, please, Dion?
sure, sure. Okay, I've sent it to you on WhatsApp. So you should be able to look.
Okay. Okay. Just a second. Okay. If you're not asked to color it, then it means you're leaving it up to your discrimination. And if you are very good at color, you should go ahead and color. It's just basically leaving it up to your discretion. When it's not mentioned whether you should color the sketch or not. So unless it is particularly mentioned that please do not use color in this drawing, it's open to your own discretion whether you want to or not. So then it'll come down to how good you are at sketching. Sorry, I should repeat the question. We are not expected or asked to color or shade the theme sketches. Should we just leave it unshaded? So in case you're not asked for it, you should leave it. It's up to you. It's up to your own discretion. Okay, somebody asked whether it is necessary to make detailed human figures in our sketches. Well, yes, if the exercise asks that of you. But as for the detail, it's not necessary to be detailed so long as they are proportionate. If you're able to get the proportion of the head versus the body versus the hand correct, it's all right if you just give an outline, or if you just give a hint of the overall body form and not get into the details of the clothing, the hair, or the features, etc. But if it is asked of you in the exercise, for example, in this one it was, you must absolutely show the human figures.
Right.
Okay.
Isha, so any other questions you want to take?
Yeah, I don't. John, I don't know if the problem is at my end. I'm not able to hear you.
Right. Just wanted to know if there are any other Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Just wanted to know if you have time to take a few more questions which I've sent to you.
Is it possible, John, if I could get back to them later? I have to be somewhere at 5. I'm sorry, it's
Sure,
just 10 minutes
sure.
away, but I might have to leave.
No problem. So what we'll do is
I don't mind answering over email or any other way that you deem fit at a later time.
Sure. So what we'll do is, Isha, you could probably go ahead. Thank you so much for participating in this, Isha, and having a wonderful webinar with us and sharing your thoughts. So thank you so much. We will continue with the mathematics questions related to mathematics and aptitude right now. Thanks, Isha. You can proceed now. Okay.
Okay.
And
Thank you, Gion, and all the best to all of you. Wish you all luck, and but just have fun while you attempt the papers.
all right. Right. So I hope all of y'all can hear me. Just a second. Right. So I'm gonna talk about a few more questions. Hold on. Just a second. Yeah. So I'm gonna talk about a few more questions that have been asked in the chat box. Let's try and address all of these. Right. I'm just going to go one by one and address all of these. Okay. In the meantime, for the man, can you get his laptop? Okay. No. Ram Prasad's laptop. And join from here and use it. Okay. Right. So Rahul, your question regarding Ludhiana, I hope that was answered. What should I use to outline my competition? Okay, let's go into the math part. We'll take the math part in a little while. I'll just handle the aptitude part for you, your questions related to aptitude. Okay, 1 second. So this Hrithik Sridhar has said, can you please evaluate my drawings? It's been sent recently through mail. We will get back with you on that. There will be a faculty who would correct your mail and your drawings and send it back to you. Will JEE score be considered this year? The answer to that is yes. You can, to get into most colleges, you can either use your JEE score or your NATA score. Okay. I'm just trying to figure out more questions. Someone has said I have 46% in math. Am I eligible? Please go through the eligibility rules as given in the brochure. Math part, someone will talk about the math part again. What are the basic and important questions in NATA? So if you go on to this website called edge.dqlabs.in, okay, edge.dqlabs.in. So in this website, it will give you all the possible. So click on learn, and under learn there are various topics here. So you have mathematics, you have architecture awareness, visual spatial ability, mental ability, analytical reasoning, English. Okay. So go through all these topics. In each of these topics, for example, architecture awareness, there are subtopics, and in each of these subtopics, there are basic concepts and variations on the types of questions that are there, and a practice quiz as well. Okay. Now, what you need to do is you can also take a test and get some cognitive analytics. So, for example, you take the All India mock test. Okay. Now, I will just answer some questions for you. Just the idea of this is I want people to understand how this works. Okay. So, yeah, so the main thing is the cognitive analytics. Okay. Now I'm bringing this in because of the very specific question that's been asked out here regarding what are the basic and important questions in NATA. There is a certain weightage. Okay, so there are questions here that are asked. For example, well, I don't know the answers to most of these questions, but I will only be talking to you about the platform. So what happens is, if you see now, there's a question with 4 answer options, and we need to identify what the answer is. So dash is made from red and yellow when they mix together. Who knows the answer to this? Red and yellow mixed together. What 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 color comes out when red and yellow are mixed together? Anyone knows the answer to this? Orange. Yeah. So orange, correct. That's a good thing. So let's select orange. Now I want you to see what happens when we select the answer. Look at the submit button. So the submit button breaks up into 3. It's asking you, have you used your knowledge? The green one is, have you used your knowledge, or have you used the formula, or have you used a logical process to derive this answer? The third option is randomly. Do you have no clue about this and you randomly selected? Or have you done it by a process of elimination, meaning no, green cannot be it, lime green cannot be it, pink is probably red and white mixed together. So it has to be orange. So we are using a knowledge in this case, right? So what the system is trying to do, I'm just going to randomly select some answers here. What the system is trying to do, it's trying to understand from you, first of all, for every question, which is your dominant approach? Is it the logical approach? Is it random or elimination? Okay, so that's what happens in the first when you're answering these questions. The second question is the second thing it pegs is that every question that you answer is on the back end pegged to a certain topic, and that topic will be the system will analyze how many questions you got right and how many questions you got wrong in that particular topic. So the important thing for you to note is that, let's go to question number 60 and end. Okay, it's important for all of you to note what happens in the system. I'm saying this again because I would like you to use this cognitive science properly. Okay, now, for example, it not only tells you an overall score, how many right, how many wrong, how many not answered. It gives you that information. It gives you an answer and an explanation to the answer, and it also tells you in each topic how many questions you answered and how many questions you not answered. Okay. Um, then it also gives you cognitive analytics, right? So in the cognitive analytics, it tells you that your dominant strategy of formula, how many questions you answered, how many you got right, and how many you got wrong. Now, this in this example, I have got 8 questions wrong with formula. So that means I was very confident when I answered this. I used my logic and answered these questions, but I got 8 of them wrong. So that means there's an issue with my understanding, right, or my concept. And elimination, I'm not very good in elimination. It's a good strategy in general, but I'm not very good at it. And random is never a good option. But out of the 3 questions I answered randomly, 2 I got right. So that's probably I've done the best when I've done this. But this gives me a false positive, right? So you need to go through these random questions and figure out why you got them wrong, okay, and or why you got them right, and you need to work your way up from here. Very important. Okay, now coming back to this question, which is which are the important topics, right? It's a very important question because when you take this mock test, say you take this mock test and you go to your test report, okay, where it says your attempt. Now, how did you fare is an important question. Now you see this. There are 10 questions in architectural awareness, 3 questions in general knowledge, 10 questions in mental ability. Mathematics has 31 questions. So this gives you an idea. So when you take the entire test, it gives you an idea how many questions are there in the actual paper and how the questions are distributed, right? So very important for you to understand this, and that's why this is a mock test. It also says you did better than 13%. Okay, so now this is giving you a relative score all across India, so that you guys have taken this test and everyone's trying it out. Now, what is your score across India in an Indian context, right? So I have 87% of the people ahead of me in this test which I took randomly. So you need to focus on this and this number, and it'll tell you where you stand in India. Okay, and there are thousands of people who've taken this test, right? So hope that clears some questions regarding this. I'm going to come uh, back here. Which are the basic and important questions? Scales are not allowed. Which is known as the temple town or Tamil Nadu? Okay, now here what I suggest you do, if you have issues with certain questions, go through all the study material. Um, go through all the study material, and if you have a question like this, please go to this drop down. You can go to the section called discuss, and you can post your question on discuss, and some expert will answer your question for you. Okay. Right. Mathematics minimum marks, all that information is there in the brochure. Please go through the brochure well. What building identify questions? identification questions will be there. Go to this learn section in NATA and click on architectural awareness. Okay. Over here you have famous architects and their work and famous buildings. Yeah. So click on famous buildings. This is where you'll get the answer. Okay. How do I excel in perspective drawing? So what you can do, go back to learn. Okay. Come right down here, this design sketching section. You can click on this perspectives, for example. You can click on perspectives, and there's a lot of theory for you to get an understanding. Okay. How to excel in perspective drawing. Trees should be planted on which side to protect building heat? All these questions you can get answered in DQ Edge. Um, what should you actually? Okay, there's a question here from Neha Raut. Aptitude for NATA is really vast. General information have so many important buildings in terms of architecture. So what basics should we actually memorize? Yes, Neha, this is a very good question. Unfortunately, the expectation is very, very vast. What we have done is we've gone through the last 10 years question papers in of IIT JEE and as well as NATA, and we've listed all these questions down for you. All of the answers you will find in this section of there are two sections. One is NATA past year question papers, and the second place where you can go is go to take a test. And under take a test, there is past year actual question papers. So you can go through these past year actual question papers. We've divided it in terms of topics, so you can go through each topic and find out the answers there. How can we know marking for drawing? Yeah, so Neha, to answer your question, there is so this is the most concise way of studying for NATA in a focused manner. Okay. Will realistic sketching come like it did in JEE? Yes, you can expect uh, questions on from memory and things like that. So perspective is very important for that. What is the maximum we've scored in drawing section? Yeah, so people who it's very tough to score in drawing. Out of 80 marks, you can probably expect the generally you can expect about 60, I mean 30 to 40. But if you've done something outstanding, 60, even 70 is possible. Okay, but that's for the very few people. Will we get questions on logo designing? Yes, possible. What to attempt first, maths, an aptitude part, or drawing part? So this question, when you get into the test, they will guide you. There was this part A and this part B. So part B will be drawing. So you need to it'll be aptitude and mathematics first. One second, Sham, is it mathematics and aptitude first, or is it drawing first? Yeah, so they will guide you through that process. They will select either one of them. You can't choose it for yourself. Okay. Is online exhibition, will there be set papers? What do you mean by set? In online examination, will there be set papers? I'm assuming your question is is it a computer adaptive test, or is it a prefix test? So the answer to that is it's prefixed. The questions do not change for everybody. Everybody gets the same questions. So Rishika here says, apparently I haven't been attending any coaching classes for NATA. I am only referring to online question papers. Is it good enough to pass with a good rank? Rishika, unfortunately, no. You need to be good at drawing as well as in the aptitude. Okay, so you need to score minimum marks in drawing and minimum in aptitude. So I think 25% is a minimum requirement for drawing. Okay, so out of the 80 marks, you have to score a minimum of 20 in that. I do not know if you're good in drawing or not. You've not mentioned, but referring only to only to the aptitude part is not sufficient. You have to do drawing. Whether you do go for coaching classes or not, that's separate. Um, if you want some quick tips or crash course over a few days for drawing, we can definitely organize something like that for you. You could just reach out to us after this call. Okay. Are there negative marking in NATA? No. Okay. But the brochure will talk to you a lot about that. What's the maximum score that one? What's the maximum that one can score? People can score. So we've had a student last year who scored 171 or 172 out of 200. So definitely you can score high. There is a question here. I am a commerce student with maths subject. Am I eligible for NATA 2018? The answer to that is please check with the NATA cell, because there are this contradictory information on this. As per NATA, you are eligible. As per the NATA brochure, you are eligible, but as per the Council of Architecture, the update on their website, you are not eligible. So please contact the NATA cell and contact the Council of Architecture for this clarification. There's a question. I have scored 77% in my boards. How much NATA score is required? You really need to get a high score, because JJ College has limited number of seats and a lot of students are looking to get through. Hrithik Sridhar, can I get to know whether the online mock test questions in math that we are facing now actually the standard of questions that we actually get? This is a genuine doubt, since as the 2017 NATA question paper had similar math questions, and the level of question that we are facing now is higher, is as a JEE paper, is what I feel. Well, the answer to this, I will leave it to the maths faculty. Okay, so the math faculty would clarify this after I'm done. Chandigarh, is Chandigarh University good for B.Arch? Yes, Chandigarh. Again, you will have to look at the college in which you're going to. There are a few parameters. I will share a book, DQ Labs booklet with you. You can go through that. There's some information on how to select uh, architecture school. You can go to use that as a guideline to check the parameters and decide whether that school is good for you or not. The CO mock test had a few questions from physics. How likely is it to have science questions in a test? Well, those science questions would probably be more logical. You would probably need logic to answer those questions, or general knowledge to answer those questions, because all those questions are more aptitude related. All the questions that come in the NATA are aptitude related, and that's all they're trying to check. How can we scan a drawing in the mock test? You just need to so for the mock test, you could just email your drawings to sketchevaluation@dqlabs.in. Let me reply to that. Sketchevaluation@dqlabs.in. Nishit, can you check that if it's sketchevaluation@dqlabs.in or gmail.com?
Sketch valuation.
Okay. So I will. So if you want to get your sketches evaluated, just
They are on each test.
just check that out. What are the things should we include in architectural awareness? As Pankaj, I've covered that. You can look at the topics on DQ Edge and figure that out. Can you please explain how I can get to the drawing questions in the mock test? Okay, good question. So the NATA mock test is here. Click on the mock test. Okay. So section 1, this is section 1 where you get the aptitude questions, and this is section 2 where you get the drawing question. And in this question you have the yeah, in this question you can click on see the questions, and you have it here, and you have the instructions there as well. Okay. Yeah. Are English questions important? Yes, English questions are important. But you can go through the study material on DQH to understand how important they are. If you take a few mock tests, you will understand the number of questions that are dedicated to English. Are the questions that we are facing in these online mock tests are the questions that actually come in the NATA papers? Yes, Shritik. These are very, very similar questions. Similar questions, yes. Okay, because what we have done is we've evaluated these questions and the past question papers, and that's how we put it here. Do we get a rough paper for working from math? Yes, you can probably request for a rough paper and they will give it to you. Okay, it is Atharva. Yes, you can. The instructions are here on the screen where you can see the drawing questions. Yeah. Yes. So Jyoti Bhattacharya. These questions have drawing as well. I've shown it to you. Gia is asking, aren't there supposed to be 40 questions from aptitude and 20 questions from mathematics? Well, we just 1 second. How many questions are there in aptitude and how many are there in mathematics? Just a second, Gia will get that verified for you. NATA will have only 20 math questions, and why do the mock tests have 31 math questions? Um, just 1 second. 20 maths, 40 general maths. Yeah, so 20 maths and 40 general aptitude. Right. So we'll probably look into that, but some of the math questions are probably logic based as well. So that's why it comes under mathematics. When we put it under topics, it is under mathematics, but it's actually logic based. So and it comes under analytical reasoning. So that's why there is an overlap in this particular mock test, but this is what you can expect. Okay. So last year's NATA 2017 paper also had a similar structure. Okay. Last year's NATA paper had 2 theme sketch questions. Does this mean that we will have 2 theme sketches this year too? Swarna, we are not sure. We don't know whether there will be 2 theme sketches. Huh? Okay. Yeah. So on the CO website, there's a demo of the interface. You can go that, but you can check that out. But as far as theme sketches go, it's anybody's guess. They could ask you a 2 theme sketches. They could ask you a theme sketch and maybe a logo design or a 2D graphic or a 3D composition. They could really ask you whatever they want to. Shritik Sridhar, can I get to know whether the online mock test in the math